The moment I was able to dive into Breath of the Wild and its story, I was instantly intrigued by the fact that both Zelda's mother and grandmother apparently have the same sealing power that our in-game Zelda struggles to unlock throughout her journey. Since Breath of the Wild was already so different from the rest of the Zelda games we know, especially in terms of trying to place it on the timeline, and no, not going there, although there is a video by our friend CaptBurgerson that is linked in the description below that you should totally check out if you're interested in the topic. I didn't end up giving this idea too much thought for quite some time. Recently, however, this in-game lore has resurfaced for me and I have decided to dig deeper. Upon doing so, I came up with several questions and speculations. Are they, Zelda's mother and grandmother, also incarnations of the goddess Hylia? If so, why was Hylia reincarnated 3 times in a row? Would this then mean that King Rhoam is not of the royal bloodline, since canonically speaking that power can only be passed down through the royal bloodline? There just didn't seem to be any answers to satisfy me though. Such was the case until I remembered the Nintendo Direct of E3 2019, the trailer that took the Zelda community by storm with its reveal of a sequel to Breath of the Wild. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice and today I'm joined by a friend and awesome Zelda content creator, Hyrule Gamer. He has his own channel which is chock full of amazing Zelda content that you definitely need to check out. Link in the description below.
Before we dive into the nitty gritty, let us first go over some Zelda lore to set the stage for this theory. As you probably already know, the constant reincarnation of Zelda, Link, and an antagonistic evil in the form of Ganon or Ganondorf or some villain such as Vae was a process that originates from the curse of Demise in Skyward Sword. At the end of the game, once you've bested him, Demise curses you and your descendants. He says that his malice and hatred will continue to reinsert itself into the world for generations to come. While we know not all the Links are actually related, save for Twilight Princess Link being the descendant of the Hero of Time, Link from Ocarina of Time. This lore provides us with the source of why these 3 are constantly reincarnated. Whenever the threat of a great evil begins to surface, the reincarnation of Demise's hatred, the spirit of the hero with the Triforce of Courage will reincarnate into a young man born with the name Link. Similarly, a daughter will be born into the royal family of Hyrule with the Triforce of Wisdom, a power to seal away such evils, and is actually the goddess Hylia incarnate. She will also be given the name traditionally handed down to all royal daughters, Zelda. Now, unlike with the various Links who simply possess the spirit and courage of the hero and are mostly not related by blood, every incarnation of Hylia is the royal bloodline. This connection must mean that each and every Zelda we see is blood related.
In Breath of the Wild, we find out that the Queen, the mother of Zelda, died when Zelda was quite young. So young in fact that she had not begun training her to unlock her sealing power like her mother, Zelda's grandmother, had done before her. Right off the bat, this suggests that both Zelda's mother and grandmother have the sealing power as well, though I guess they never had to use it? As previously stated, upon looking into this, I had many questions. While I did have to make some assumptions for the sake of taking this theory further, they're not difficult to believe as possible truths. Some of those conclusions are, these 2 women are also named Zelda, seeing as in King Rhoam's diary he writes that the name Zelda is from tradition. Training the royal daughter to unlock her sealing power is commonplace and has been tradition for quite some time, probably exceeding 10,000 years since it was 10,000 years ago that the last resurgence of the calamity was. Since we only know of this power occurring within the royal bloodline, King Rhoam married in to the royal family and is not the heir, but rather his wife was. In addition to the last assumption, we already know that every Zelda is the reincarnation of the goddess Hylia, which means Zelda's mother and grandmother were also reincarnations, right?
But with all of these assumptions comes further questioning. How could the goddess have multiple incarnations at once? Always at least 2. Just how long has this been going on? Have there been just as many Links chosen at random by the spirit of the hero? And why have there been so many Zeldas with these sealing powers?
All of these questions felt impossible to answer, but it was that last one which irked me the most. And you might be thinking at this point, hey, these ideas and assumptions are cool beans and all, but what does this have to do with the sequel? Well, as aforementioned, it was when I rewatched the E3 2019 trailer that all of the puzzles seemed to begin to fit.
That beautiful trailer sent Zelda theorists, especially on YouTube, into a frenzy. There was so much to unpack, to question, to speculate about, and even almost 6 months later, and we're still theorizing. And of all of the mysteries to be unveiled, probably the most discussed is that eerie, glowing hand which is clamped onto the chest of a mummified Ganondorf. The hand, which very well may be the key to answering some of these puzzling questions. Most would agree that the hand seems to possess some sort of sealing property, allowing it to keep Ganondorf and his evil at bay, though this malice is oozing out, possibly leading to the 2 Calamity Ganon incarnations we know of. But what is it made of? Who or what put it there? The source of its power is widely speculated. Sheikah Tech, Zonai magic, the essence of luminous stones, and the list just goes on. But what if? What if the source is none other than Goddess Hylia herself? Or rather, the incarnations of her. Every single one from the past 10,000 plus years.
You heard that right. I propose that the hand is the work of thousands of generations of Zeldas, thousands of incarnations of the goddess Hylia, exceeding 10 millennia. But how and why would this be the case? Taking from what we understand about the reincarnations of the goddess Hylia, as well as the reincarnations of the spirit of the hero, it seems to only happen when the evil of Demise is born again in some way. However, what if that evil is never truly doused? What if someone or a few someones decided to lock away the Gerudo King in a way that doesn't kill him, but only contains his evil powers? This has already been discussed by many theorists to some degree, but I believe that this is the key to answering my question of why so many Zeldas have been born and reborn again and again. It's because the current incarnation of evil was never defeated, only pacified. The Curse of Demise was still incarnate, though contained, thus leading to the constant reincarnations of the goddess Hylia. Yet each time, instead of teaming up with the hero who wields the blade of evil's bane, they have instead each just tried to reinforce this fragile seal, a seal which neither fully releases nor fully defeats Demise's hatred, resulting in an excess of malice which erupts in the form of the calamity at least 2 times that we know of.
This is what Zelda's mother in Breath of the Wild perhaps was going to teach her. Not just to unlock her powers, but to possibly take her down to where the evil king is kept and reveal to her what every Zelda has done for over 10,000 years. And if this is true, it is probably the best kept secret in the history of Hyrule. As far as we can tell, the king may not even know the full extent of the situation. It is entirely possible no one but the queen knew. It is also just as likely that there may be a few who know, such as Impa, but are in agreement that this is better than killing him off only to let him reincarnate in some way in the future. All of this could mean that the spirit of the hero has been reappearing multiple times as well, for the same reason there might be multiple Zeldas. Though we have no evidence of this, except the one we learn about from the last calamity.
And concerning how there could be 2 incarnations of the goddess Hylia at once, I have 2 theories. The first is that simply because she is a goddess, she can do what she wants and have 2 of herself at one time. What is also possible is that the moment a new Zelda of the royal bloodline is conceived, the essence and nature of goddess Hylia transfers from the mother to the daughter. Meaning, for example, that at the moment of her conception, Zelda from Breath of the Wild was already the incarnation of goddess Hylia. And her mother, at this exact same time, was no longer of dual nature, both Hylian and goddess Hylia, but instead lost her sealing powers, which were then passed on to her daughter, and was from that moment forward simply a Hylian.
Now, what are some possible flaws in this theory? Well, there are a fair amount of assumptions being made here. we assume Zelda's ancestors are all incarnations of the goddess Hylia, and thus have sealing powers. But what if they don't actually have any magic at all, and simply teach their daughters certain praise or rituals just in case they need to unlock something within them? I mean, how would they know they have sealing abilities if they never needed to use them? If what is proposed is true, then of course they use it to reinforce the seal on Ganondorf, but we don't know that for sure. It has also been assumed that every single queen ends up having at least one daughter. Likewise, it is assumed that in past games, daughters are never born unless the power of the goddess Hylia is needed.
Piggybacking off of that last one, we need to look into two things. First is the mother of Tetra in The Wind Waker, and second is Ganondorf in Twilight Princess. In Wind Waker, we know Tetra's mother had entrusted her with the Triforce of Wisdom and to guard it with her life. The information is vague, but wouldn't this mean that both Tetra and her mother are of the royal bloodline? Well, yeah, and this actually plays into my current theory quite nicely. The Ganondorf we see in Wind Waker has been around since Ocarina of Time somehow. So, with this incarnation of Demise's hatred still existing, it would make sense, based on what I've already proposed for Breath of the Wild, for there to be multiple Zeldas here too. Tetra and her mother, and so on and so forth, all being reincarnations of the goddess Hylia because the current incarnation of Demise's hatred, Ganondorf, is still lurking. In Twilight Princess, Ganondorf is still sort of around, just in the Twilight realm. With this in mind, based on what I've proposed for Breath of the Wild, and I guess now Wind Waker, shouldn't there have been a plethora of Zeldas in this timeline too? Sure, it's possible. We don't know too much about this Zelda since we seldom interact with her, and she seems to have a good handle on her powers, so she could have been trained by her mother, and her mother before her, and her mother before that. Could be, but still, this is all widely assumed. And finally, another possible issue is, what does this mean for Link's hand? Based on what has been said, does this mean Link has been infused with the power of every single Zelda for the past 10,000 plus years? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so that was a lot of crazy stuff that was thrown out there. So let's sum it all up.
Based on the lore we are given throughout several Zelda games, it is logical to conclude that both Zelda's mother and grandmother were incarnations of the goddess Hylia, or at the very least had her sealing powers. Hence why it was seemingly becoming tradition to teach the next royal daughter how to unlock that power. The reason for this constant resurfacing of new Zeldas is because the current incarnation of Demise's hatred has never been destroyed, rather only somewhat pacified. This version, most likely Ganondorf, has been locked away somewhere dark and deep with a mysterious glowing hand clenching his chest to keep him away. The hand's powers most likely sourcing from whichever Zelda put it on him in the first place. Because of this, new Zeldas keep being born with the hope of actually getting rid of him. Instead, each one has contributed her powers to reinforcing the seal on Ganondorf, then passing down her knowledge to the next Zelda in line.
But now, it looks like our Zelda, Breath of the Wild Zelda, has discovered the truth. Perhaps she discovered some hidden away ancient text about when he was initially sealed over 10,000 years ago. Maybe she found some notes or letters from her deceased mother. Either way, it seems that this Zelda will be the one to end it once and for all, releasing this mummified Ganondorf so she and Link can actually eradicate Hyrule of him, rather than just keeping him at bay like her ancestors have done for over 10,000 years. Thank you so much for listening and watching this theory idea. Be sure to let me know in the comment section below your thoughts and anything I may have missed that either contradicts or builds up this theory. I realize that I did make a lot of assumptions and speculations, but I think that kind of goes for any theory, and that was part of the fun, really. There have just been a myriad of ideas and theories coming out surrounding this new Breath of the Wild sequel, and I was so happy to actually have an idea of my own and put my thoughts into it. And also a huge shout out to Hyrule Gamer for helping me make this video. He's really got excellent content that I cannot recommend enough. I can't imagine you would know my stuff and not know his, but just in case you don't, his info is in the description below and you definitely need to check it out. Just saying. Also, thank you so much to my patrons for your support, like JokingBatman, Cheap Seats, Lorulian Sheep, and Sushi Bandit. You guys are all so amazing and you make doing this so much easier, so Thank you all so much. By the way, if you did enjoy this video, maybe consider subscribing if you haven't already. But anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for watching.